All right. Do you want me to scroll down more?
Yes, miss, I have read.
All right. Okay. All right. Any other points? Any questions? Is it
No, miss.
okay? Self explanatory? All right. So let us start with today's session. We are going to continue from where we had left off. We'll move on to please mark your attendance, writing your first name and last name in the chat box, please. Okay, so did you practice underlining and breaking down the question in chunks and attacking the question using the question attacking strategy I taught you yesterday?
Yes, miss, I attempted one of the passages named chess, and I was able to score. I was able, I did well in that.
Okay, good. So did the question or content points come out to be the same as you had selected?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well done. Great. So let us proceed to the question today. So I'm going to now display the mark scheme that I wanted to go over once we have a fair idea of what is supposed to be done in this particular question. So we did go through the question in detail. We understood how to understand and comprehend the question requirements. We moved on to reading the passage in detail, looking at the question's requirements for the summary and selecting the relevant points. Then comes your mark scheme. Now, the best idea for you is to take a look at the mark scheme only when you are done practicing the paper. However, there are times when students get confused because their answers turn out to be, or the selected points turn out to be different from what they have written in the summary, the content points 1A notes. So, the first thing is this is what it looks like. I'm sure you must have seen this, but let's go over it once. So you get the question reference, question number in the left column. You've got the answer with the question statement. Remember, 1 mark is given for each correct point to a maximum of 12 marks. This is one reason we said you need to write at least 15 marks. Do not think of writing 6 points for the first section of the summary writing question and the first section of 1A and 6 for 1B. You can have any distribution as such, but try to find a total of 12 to 15 marks of 15 points to get 1 mark for each. The first point is already given to you. You do not need to worry about that. You will not be given any marks for the first point. Coming to that one, let's first of all move on to the passage. We are going to read the passage. We are going to select the points from there, and from there, once we are done selecting the points, we are going to come back to the to the mark scheme, and then we'll compare the points that we have selected and why some points are not allowed. All right. So this is going to give us a complete overview of what is allowed and what is not allowed and why. Clear?
Yes, miss.
All right. So where were we yesterday?
Third paragraph, I think.
Third paragraph, yes. So we were almost done with the first two. Ancient Greek and Roman theater made use of comic characters also associated with circuses. This is where we were talking about the development and spread of, again, in modern times. These introduced humor through their hilarious behavior. A development of the comic character was the clown, who, as well as being funny, exemplified a range of human emotions. Just a second, let me enter the student here. All right. Assalamu alaikum, Ishal.
Assalamu alaikum, miss.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so Ishal, we are now starting the session. We just started with the question. Once today we take a look at the passage and select points, we are going to take a look at the mark scheme and we'll compare our points with the mark schemes points without moving on to writing the summary. Okay, so 1A, once we complete 1A, we're going to compare our answers. All right. Okay, so
Okay, miss.
just to resume from today, let us go over the question once more so that we have a clear idea. Read passage 1, circuses in the insert, and answer all the questions below. 1A notes. Identify and write down the information in the passage which describes 1AA, the origins and development of circuses in former times, and Part B, the development and spread of circuses in modern times as outlined in the passage, which clearly tells us that we cannot include any point of our own. Because what is the significance of writing this phrase as outlined in the passage? Candidates are not allowed to add any point or any opinion of their own, no matter how learned they are, how much information they have. No idea, no opinion of your own. Use material from the whole passage, so we know that we have to go through the entire passage. At this stage, you do not need to use your own words. All you need to do is just pick the phrases and sentences and write them in the given space. You can also pick the phrases only. You do not have to aim for writing the entire sentence if it is a longer one and it includes like two or more points. You can pick the phrases, that's fine. Use note form, which is the bullet points. An example is going to be clearly displayed here, so you would know how to write it down. To help you get started, the first point in each section of notes is done for you. So you've got two sections of notes, 1A, the first part and the second part. You may find it helpful to use bullet points when listing the content points. I gave you a tip yesterday about using the bullet points. Can you repeat and recall which tip was that about using bullet points? Yes.
The one in which you said if I were you, you would have written it along with the passage or the insert like 1A and 1B.
Yes, that's one. And while that is the first tip, very good. That I said that yesterday. And while transferring those points from the insert to the question paper here in
Number them.
points, what would I do?
Number them.
Yes, absolutely. Why would numbering help you?
Because we will get an idea how much of, because we should be writing more than 12 so that we have an idea of
How many you have written already? It will save you time. It will save you panic. You won't panic. It will save you
yeah.
that save time and effort. All right. Moving on to the next slide, let's take a look at the passage. So we had selected almost 4 points from the first two paragraphs about the origins. Sorry, origins and development of circuses in former times. Right. Now let's move on to the next part. Even the use of comic characters in ancient Greek and Roman theater was also a point from the development um, of circuses in former times. Any questions for this slide?
No, miss.
Okay, fourth paragraph. What might be called the modern circus began when horse riding shows were performed, with the horses not in a straight line, as in the past, but in a circle or ring. It was the Englishman Philip Astley who developed in 1768 the optimum ring circumference to ensure both rider safety and the best view for the audience. Can we select the point that tells us the development and spread of circuses in modern times. So, development is the evolution, additions, inclusion of new techniques, new technologies, new methods, new ways of improvement, and spread would be going into different origins. We talked about it yesterday. So, can we see which point should we highlight here?
The first line,
The first line.
like horse riding shows were performed in a
Perfect.
circle or a ring.
Perfect. Very good. All right. So we do not need extra information. And the Englishman Philip Astley's example is an elaboration. Okay. The next development came 2 years. Now this is written explicitly. Students remember such words and phrases like this one is telling you directly that it is the development. This technique will also help you understand your reading for meaning passages when you understand how to identify implicit ideas and how to identify explicit ideas. In this case, this development is written very explicitly, very clearly on the surface, right? Because the writer itself himself is saying the next development. So it came 2 years later with the addition by Astley of other traditional performance arts, acrobats, juggling, and music, to entertain the audience between his own riding stunts and produce a whole show. All right, do we include this point?
Um,
Take your time. All right.
but we can write like the next development came with the addition of the traditional performances arts.
Yes, and you can also name them, okay? Because it is an
Oh,
important development. And acrobatics, juggling, and music are different from the first horse riding shows, right? So it is not the elaboration, but it is the main point that acrobats were added, juggling were added, music was added. So these performance arts were added, and this was basically an entirely new development. So it was not now solely based on horse riding shows performed in circles. So you'd say yes, addition of more traditional performance arts, such as, and you will name them. All right. And it says to entertain the audience between his own writing stance. So it was done solely for the entertainment purposes of the audiences. Perfect. Ishal, any question?
No, miss, not at all.
All right. Were you also thinking on the same lines? Please let me know because I'm not taking a look at the chat box right now. Okay.
Yes, miss, I am.
Okay, great. As styles of performance developed in modern times, so too did the types of performance venues. The first modern circuses took place in the open air, but later venues were custom made buildings, and then came the large tent or big top, which is often thought of today as a typical circus venue. Please identify the overarching point that you would include in the notes section 1A. Development of circuses in modern times, because we know it's not the origin, now it's the development. So, from the last two sentences, what would you pick? And within the sentence, what phrase?
Miss, as styles of performance developed in modern times, so too did the type of performances when used. And
Because,
then we um,
yeah, please continue your sentence. I'm waiting for you to finish first and then give me the reason.
Miss, you can complete it. I do not have an idea about it.
Okay, come on, come on, try.
We can write as styles of performance but developed in modern times, so too did the type of performance venues,
Hmm.
such as um, the open air or the custom-made buildings, and lastly, the large tent.
Okay. Here, let me just correct you here. There is a difference here. You are completely right on point. Yes, it is the point that there was, of course, as it says, as styles of performance developed in modern times, so too did the types of performance venues. So you can say performance venues also uh, developed with time. All right. Um, The first modern circuses took place in the open air, so you're given the examples from the old ones to the new ones now. But these are the examples of the same point, the performance venues. You can mention them, it is fine, but your main point has to be there. All right.
Okay.
Exactly. You should try to, because over here, if you see, it was the development of the circus point, which was like horse riding shows and then acrobatics, juggling, and music. Similarly, you can mention that in the modern times, the performance venues that were in, like initially first they were performed in the open air. Later they moved from open air to properly custom built buildings. That's it. And now, of course, they're telling you the evolution. First came the open air, and then custom made buildings, and then the big tents and with the big top. And then this is basically the evolution from one type of venue to another, and then the third one, the big top, right? Um, you can also omit mentioning that. All right. You can omit mentioning that. You can just talk about from open air to
Okay.
big top. That is also perfectly fine. But the point is perfectly mentioned. You've done it very clearly and correctly. Fifth paragraph. Soon modern circuses spread to Europe. So we know the topic sentence is specifically about
The spread
the
of
spread.
circus.
Absolutely. And now we know that it is talking about the geographies. If you notice, the way we actually sliced, I would say sliced and cracked open the keywords in the question, right? Now, when we went back to the passage, um, it becomes very easier for the readers and students like you to understand, okay, this particular paragraph is talking about the things that we had already assumed or we had predicted. Remember, we said, okay, so spread would be about the places and development would be about the types, techniques, methods, evolution, changes, introduction of new techniques, technologies, and things. Remember? So, again, do not skip this part of the question as well. At least you should have like some idea in your head when attempting the question. Soon, modern circuses spread to Europe. Okay, number one. Yes, should we select this point?
Yes, miss. You
Okay.
should.
Astley established a circus called Amphitheatre Anglais in Paris in 1782, and before long there were 18 other permanent circuses throughout Europe. Okay, the circus craze reached the USA. So from Europe all the way to the US, which is the United States of America, and it is amazing to realize that the president George Washington himself attended a circus in Philadelphia. Which point did you pick from there? Um, the American president, would you also include that one?
No, that is an example.
That's an example, that's the elaboration, absolutely. The American Phineas Barnum brought about an important development by introducing the concept of a traveling circus. Again, he was the first businessman to use circus trains to transport his circus from town to town, and he became known as the greatest showman. The film of that name, released in 2017, was sensational and won several awards. What would you pick here? The introduction of.
Um, the introduction of the concept of traveling circus.
That's it. Perfect. By the 20th century, there were traveling
But miss,
circuses
I
in.
have a question.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you. Will we include the name of this person, the American?
No, you won't need to. No, you don't need to.
Okay.
Okay, because it is
Okay.
about the spread. It is an example. It is the elaboration of the same point. The person who's been working Philip Astley, right? You don't need to include his name.
Okay.
It is again elaboration. See, remember that. Did you explore the link I had shared with you guys? Ishal, Yahya? Did you explore the link I had shared
Um,
with you? The summary
no,
writing
Yes.
miss.
one? Okay. All right. Please do that in your free time. It is going to help you big time. Okay. Please save it and it will help you so much. It's got all the tips and techniques. DIERQ is the thing to take a look at when you are selecting content points and we are not sure, oh, is the point correct or not? And then you see, okay, is it a detail? Is it an elaboration? Is it a DIERQ? Is it a repetition or is it a quotation? So which one is it? And then you would know, just to test your idea selection. Moving on to the next point. By the 20th century, there were traveling circuses in many other parts of the world, such as South Africa and Southeast Asia. You can combine the two. The introduction of traveling circuses around, and then the introduction of, you can just combine the two. Traveling circuses reached South Africa and Southeast Asia, with the Moscow State Circus and the Chinese State Circus being among the most famous modern touring acts. Will you be mentioning Moscow State Circus and
No,
Chinese State Circus? No, these are the examples of
elaborate.
traveling circuses. There we go, absolutely. So let us now take a look at the points that we have, last paragraph, and then we'll move on. Horses had always had a role in the modern circus, but at some point, wild animals such as lions and elephants were introduced, trained to perform tricks, or sometimes shown as a menagerie in tents separate from the big top. Have you seen the big top, especially in cartoons? Even in Tom and Jerry, and even in the movie Madagascar. Have you seen those circus venues like Big Top in cartoon movies?
Yes,
Yeah, it's a like huge tent, a red color tent.
yes, the one that usually catches fire due to chaos.
Yes, absolutely. All right, exactly. Okay, let me take a look at the question comments here. Mm, okay, great. All right, thank you. Ishal, you can unmute your mic and then you can share. That's okay. All right, let's move on to the next point. So, which point do we pick from here?
Um, Wild animals, but we can mention, or we can just write wild animals were also introduced to the modern circus.
You can mention them as such as lions and elephants, because you see, if you just mention wild animals, anybody can think of, oh, a wild animal, a gorilla can be a wild animal also, or people can also think about like snakes, although they are a part of the circuses these days also. But this particular one, this point particularly talks about lions and elephants, so yes, you can mention that.
But
Sometimes
miss, they have written it as an example. So isn't it too an elaboration for the wild animals,
it
or
is.
is it necessary for
In a sense, it is the elaboration of the key point. What is the key point which is particularly required? That wild animals were introduced in modern
Okay,
circuses. If you've written this one, perfectly fine. Go ahead. All right. And if you include the points such as lions and elephants only, and if you've skipped writing the point of wild animals, you won't get marks
okay,
because you're just giving the
okay,
examples. If you've written the basic point here, wild animals, and then, for example, lions and elephants, then it would be okay. All right. Even if you
okay,
just write just wild animals, it would be okay. That is one reason I'm going to like take you through the mark schema soon after this. All right.
okay.
All right. Sometimes they were paraded through the street prior to their performance to advertise the circus's arrival. Public opinion rightly started to suggest that circus animals were being exploited. It was then that the many circuses evolved to provide entertainment based solely on human skills. They combined traditional circus with modern theatrical skills to convey a story or theme using aesthetic impact created by lighting and music. I think we have got like more points here. Perhaps the most famous of these is Canada's Cirque du Soleil, which is seen by 90 million spectators in more than 200 countries each year. Can we pick some points from here? Public opinion, like,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Ishal, could you please share? Bita, could you share, please? The first point would be what? The critique?
They combined the traditional circus with modern theatrical skills.
Mm-hmm.
using static impact.
Okay, perfect. This is right. This
We
one
could
more.
talk about how circus has developed throughout the years and how they've used a certain style to depict their humor, and how the aesthetic of circus itself is now transcending.
Okay. Um, I think we are missing one point here. First, we talked about the inclusion of animals, wild animals, to attract customers and performances were advertised. But later, when the point says public opinion rightly started to suggest that circus animals were being exploited, it was only then that many circuses evolved to provide entertainment based solely on human skills. And then circuses were developed to provide entertainment completely based on human abilities, just human
Okay.
abilities, right? And then you can include the point of aesthetic impact created by lighting and music combined, so a complete to give a complete theme and convey a complete story. Let's move on.
Miss, I have a question.
Okay,
Can you display that page again?
which one? This one?
The last one, the seventh paragraph.
This is the sixth paragraph,
Six,
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, with the
Yes.
highlights. I have them here.
Um,
Okay.
but Miss, the point that you just mentioned,
Mhm.
so how will we extract that? Because will we be writing public opinion rightly started
No.
to suggest that the certain.
See, public opinion is the critique that they received, but the evolution, what was the result? The result was then the circuses included only human skills. They were completely performed, prepared based on human abilities. So you will not talk about the public opinion rightly started to suggest that, because it is the critique that they were receiving at that time. It was something that was happening, but the result was that then the wild you using wild animals in circuses was removed, and introduction of circuses based on human abilities, human talent was introduced completely. Got it?
Okay. Right.
Understood? So
Right.
we are not like moving here and there, right? Let's move on. Okay, let's take a look at the points here. I hope you have your registers, your papers in front of you. Can you quickly go over the points that we have in front of us? Slide number one. Okay, Ishal, could you just read out your points? I hope you have yours. And let's compare. Okay, I'll be like giving you 5 minutes to quickly compare, and then we'll move on to the mark scheme.
Excuse me, miss. Won't we be writing about like the most famous circus in Rome was the Circus Maximus?
No, because it is not asking us about the particular name of a famous circus. Here, let's take a look at the question again. That is why I said we have to go back to question again and again. Let's see. It says the origins and development of circuses in former times. Yes, one origins means where it originated, and development, one particular circus being too popular is a part of the development, but it is not a significant stage in the development of the circuses. Have you got your answer?
Yes, miss. I'll just cut that out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, are you comparing your answer also? Your points?
Yes, Miss, I have written them,
Most of them
but
are the same.
we discussed. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can see like most of them are same. All right, let me know when we need to move on to the next one, okay? The next slide. All right. The first point was given to us origins in Egypt and China. The next point was the evolution. Of course, origins is the origins. Um, Performance of extraordinary human feats of balance, agility, and coordination were found in ancient Greece and Europe. Sorry, in Rome, as well as in medieval Europe. Then we talk about here. It is the point about the development of Circuses in former times. Again, we are talking about former times here. In Rome, a circus was a building used for entertainment involving sports and animals. Development, it was like the origin there. Circuses were also associated with spectacle, a proper display, a parade, a show. Development or origin. What origin? Origin. Circuses were also social centers. All right, this was also basically, if you just look at it, you would know it is also a part of the development and origins of circuses in former times. Ancient Greek and Roman theater made use of comic characters later on, which is also associated with the circuses, the development in the former times. Shall we move on to the next slide? The
Yes, miss.
the development and spread of circuses in modern times. Horse riding shows were performed. It was the development in modern times, but in a circle. So it is 1 point, okay? Horse riding shows were performed in a circle for 1 point, non overlapping point. It is about the development of circles in modern times. Addition of acrobatics, addition of traditional performance arts. I will not write the name Astley of other because I was highlighting here, so you would not be writing the name here of the person here. You'd be writing the addition of traditional performance arts, acrobatics, juggling, and music for the purpose of entertainment. All right, to produce a complete show. There we go. We have the complete point here. It is about the development of circuses in modern times. We've got no point as such here. I think we talked about, yeah,
No.
okay. It is reaching the USA. It is about the
The custom
spread.
made building.
Yes, it is. It spread to Europe. Another point. Then the circus reached the US. Another point. Then we
Then
have
traveling circle.
the traveling circuses. Perfect. And after that, South Africa, Southeast Asia. Right?
Yes.
I think we've got 3 points from paragraph number 5. Moving on to paragraph number
Yes.
6. Horses had always been okay. So we just move on to addition of wild animals such as lions and elephants. All right, to perform tricks, and they were introduced and trained. We need to mention that as well. You just can't mention that only the wild animals were introduced to circuses where it will just lead the reader to wonder what's going on. You need to mention that they were trained and introduced and trained to perform tricks. So these are the words that we are writing in 1A content points notes, but we will be changing them completely altogether. It was then that many circuses evolved to provide entertainment based solely on human skills. We've talked about it. And then combined traditional circus with modern theatrical skills to convey a story or theme using aesthetic impact created by music and lighting. That's it. Any questions?
No, miss, all clear.
Okay, let's move on to the mark scheme here. So, the given point was juggling skills have their origins in Egypt and China. Okay, if you're given the starter to write the summary, also you'd be writing it in the same way. Although we do not copy the points as it is called direct lifting. What is it called? Copying is called direct lifting. We
Direct
want to
lifting.
avoid that. Acrobatic traditions, performances of extraordinary human feats of balance, agility, and coordination. Remember, these forward slashes are the alternative options, but if you find any word underlined, it means it has to be mentioned. You cannot skip
Oh,
mentioning that. Okay? The lift of lines is also allowed in the content points. If you just write down acrobatic traditions found in modern circuses only without writing extraordinary human feats of balance, agility, and coordination, then it would be wrong. Why? Because it is not particularly focusing on the purpose of acrobatics as such, acrobats, right? Because it shows what human it's a feat, right, to show balance, your quickness and your muscle coordination. All right, so and has to be there. Number Okay, let's move on to the third point, the next one. You can mention, you can not mention, it's your choice. Whatever is in the brackets is optional. All right. Building or construction used for entertainment. Initially, in Rome, basically circus was what? Basically, it was a building used for construction, used for entertainment purposes as such, which included sports and animals. You can mention, you can skip it. It's your choice. Clear? What is not allowed? It is important to see what is not allowed. Circus maximus, you cannot, it is elaboration. Horse riding, etc., etc., only examples alone, it is not allowed. Clear? Then came the spectacle. Circuses used as a spectacle. They were, or you can mention they were associated with spectacle. Now, what was it? Of course, a proper show display like a parade or a proper huge site with performances. If you write down that they were like filled with like flooding the circus area and then displaying and showing the sea battles stories, these are all examples. These will not get you marks. Clear? Moving
But
on.
we can write it together with the main point.
If you again 180 words, I will just share with you the one that I have written. It has I think
Uh,
184 words. Okay. So Claire, I think you all can access the mark scheme also online. Shall we go to the example now?
yes, miss.
Ishal, what do you say? Or do we take a look at more not allowed responses?
No, miss, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Because it is accessible, let's go to the example here. All right. So first of all, guys, I think this is something that you need to take a look at. I'm sharing it with you. Just a minute. Just a second. Um, when selecting the content points, this is what you need to keep in mind. I'm sharing it in the chat box. Okay, it's kind of a checklist that you'd also find in the link I have shared with you. You select relevant points as directed in the question and jotting them down in bullets under respective heading. You do not repeat any points, even if they are repeated in the original text. Keep in mind, you do not include examples, explanations of the main ideas, the overarching ideas. Do not write the given example point in your final count of points. Exclusive, right? Aim for writing a minimum of 4 points under each section, but it may vary depending upon the text you get. Okay, it is not a given or hard and fast rule. You do not need to use your own words at this point. Order of the points may change in this part. It is your choice, but try to focus and follow the given um, flow of the points given to you. Okay, let me go to this part now. All right. So here I have listed down the points as I selected them. Let us take a look at the solved examples. Okay, I think this will be better. It will show you the changes where changes have been made. Okay, summary of the origins and development of circuses in former times and the development and spread of circuses in modern times. The art of juggling originated in Egypt and China. I have not like removed this part. I should be okay. So it is the given point. And I've used the given starter, so I will not be like skipping it. But I won't get any marks for this one. In ancient Greece and Rome, as well as medieval Europe, performances of astonishing human feats of balance, agility, and coordination have been documented. You can remove, you can use also think of another word for feats. Okay, I couldn't really think of another word for feat. You can think about achievements or such something like that. Balance, agility, and coordination. I did not really want to replace this word in any case because then the meaning would completely change. I tried doing it, but it was changing, so decided to leave it like that. Reason being, I am giving it with complete point here. If I remove this point, this particularly it is also okay. A circus was a structure used for animal and sport-related entertainment in Rome. Again, structure initial passage said the word building. Additionally, linked to spectacle were circuses that also served as social hubs at the time. Not only this, the comedic figures that were connected to circuses were used in ancient Greek and Roman theater. Later in modern days, a circle was used for horse riding demonstrations. A full show was created by including music, juggling, and other traditional performance skills to entertain the audience. The varieties of show sites evolved alongside performing techniques in the contemporary era. Contemporary era, modern era, modern times. The modern circuses migrated to Europe and then the Americans caught the circus obsession. Again, I have not highlighted this part, but it has also been changed. After the introduction of the traveling circus, many other regions of the world had them by the turn of the 20th century. Later, wild creatures were brought in and trained to stage stunts, including lions and elephants. Stunts, show performances. Many circuses then developed to offer entertainment based exclusively on human abilities. 184 words, let's say 182 words, remove these two. All right. The reason I have highlighted certain words and sentences here are that I wanted you to observe the changes. What do you observe? Yellow color. What has been changed in yellow color here? You have your points in front of you?
Some of the common words um, for which the synonyms were easy to find out.
Okay, so we have simply used synonyms without changing the true essence of the meaning. Okay, whenever
Yes.
you so tip number one, examiner tip. Whenever you pick the synonyms, make sure that when you put in a synonym in place of the original word, it does not change the intended meaning. Number two, what do you see in pink color?
The discourse markers,
Okay, and these are what are discourse markers? These are basically in easier
the
terms
conjunctive,
connectives. Okay, these
connective, yes,
connectives, there we
connective.
go. We also call them transitional words, phrases. We also call them connectives. Discourse markers, very good. Coming to the sentence in purple, what do you notice, both of you?
Miss, could you please repeat that?
In purple color, what do you notice? The text that's highlighted in purple color. I have used a particular technique here. Yes, the words, some of them may have been changed, that's different, but there is a particular thing that I have used here. Okay, it is the use of complex sentence structures. Okay, remember, in a summary, you should be at least writing two or one complex sentence structure. Why? The examiners would like to see number one, this allows you to break the monotony from simple sentences and compound sentences. Number two, the examiners want to see students' ability to use complex sentences in O levels. No matter what you're writing, of course, when you write too much and you practice too much, you do get the hang of it, and you get a a firm grip over develop a firm grip over writing complex sentences. But let's see what are complex sentences and why this sentence is a complex sentence. After the introduction of the traveling circus, if I just stop here, will you not ask me what next?
Yes, it is a dependent clause.
There we go. It is a dependent clause. Many other regions of the world had what? Had the traveling circuses by the turn of the 20th century. Independent clause.
This is an independent clause.
There we go. Okay. So your dependent clause is directly dependent upon the independent clause, and it is offset by a comma, right?
Yes,
So you can combine, just think about the possibility of using your complex sentences somewhere, anywhere in the passage. Because mostly it is a non-fiction passage, it is mostly about the origins and spread of something like, we talked about pearls. We have seen in past papers pearls, we have seen cocoa beans, we have seen chocolate, we have seen bicycles, we have also talked about nutmeg, rice. There are so many, silk, in past papers, if you see there. So these are all things that have been going through evolution and development and their spread. So mostly you'd be getting this one. And it is a very good idea to use your complex sentences in such a manner. So at least fit in a complex sentence somewhere. Now when you sit, when you go home, and if, when you sit to practice the past papers, please remember that you should be picking like three color pencils simply, or a highlighter, whatever works for you. And after you're done writing, do not forget to write your total word count, and highlight the synonyms or underline them with color, pencil, highlighters, whatever, your discourse markers, your connectives, transitional phrases, and one complex sentence, right? Now, why?
But Miss,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
the sentence that which you have highlighted in purple, that
Mhm.
was not a part of the content points, isn't it?
It is the content point. I mean, it is like many other regions of the world had them by the turn of 20th century. So by 20th and those centuries, I did not mention those countries like South Africa, Asia.
Oh, okay, okay,
Got
okay.
it?
I got it.
Right? Here, I think it's here. Southeast, yeah, South Africa and Southeast Asia. So what I did was I said many other countries here. All right, many other regions of the world had them by the turn of
Okay,
20th
miss, I
century,
got it.
right? So what you're doing here is you're actually telling the examiner that you can vary sentence structures. There's a proper cohesiveness in your summary. The synonyms are there. Everything is in your own words. Not even in a single phrase should the examiner get a feeling of you picking and copying directly from the passage. It shows an excellent understanding of the task demonstrated in an impressive response. Why? All content included is relevant with no unnecessary details, repetitions. Yes or no? It is from the mark scheme
Yes.
though. Fluent and coherent, we can see the complete flow, nothing is off the task, nothing, even the use of the dependent clauses in complex sentences gives it a very good flow to your sentences and addition to the variance in sentence structure. Coming to the other part, it includes possible synthesizing where appropriate. So instead of writing in names of the regions, I've said many other regions had them by the 20th century. So it is basically the synthesis that's given to me, that's given to the student, to the audience, and a wide range of appropriate stylish linking devices. Here we go. All right. Remember, try to use formal stylistic devices here, the linking devices. The discourse markers need to be formal. Our summary has to be written in third person, has to use formal language, remember. Also notice we have written many points in passive voice also. Even it was done in passive voice in the original passage. Any questions?
No, miss.
Okay, let me just go to today's topic. Let's see what we have there. Um, all right. So in today's session, we are done with the selection of content points with paraphrasing and example walkthrough. How helpful was it? Quickly, what did we do in today's session? In a minute. Yeah, yeah. Short and brief.
Miss, we completed the rest of the content points, and then um, you repeated about how to select the content points from the passages, and then we listed them down, and then you showed us an example of a summary of a very good band, for which on the pattern which we should follow about writing a summary. And you then told us some of the tips, such as we have to use the discourse markers, and we have to use some complex sentences in order to show like in order to show the exam that we have a good grip over it. And thirdly, you also told us like to swap some of the common words that have a wide range of the synonyms. We should be
Hmm.
swapping them too, but in such a way that the intended meaning is not changed. And in
Excellent.
this way, and the summary should be in flow, should be in a good flow, and should not be abrupt, or and
And
for
don't
this we should be
forget
using the
to
discourse
write
markers.
your word count. Please remember
Your
that.
work count.
Okay. Okay. I think that was like perfectly summarized. Very good. Thank you so much. Ishal, are you there or have you left? Okay. Very quickly,
No,
Ishal.
yes, I'm there.
All right, guys. So I'm going to end the meeting here. This is where you'd be able to see your resources, any comments that I would be like posting, any information, even in the recordings of the session have also been posted here in the comment section. You'll be able to see them. Okay. Exercise files would be there.
Okay, miss.
All right. You'd be able to see this. It will take time. Please do not pester. As such, it takes time in uploading. So please be patient with that. It takes like a day or so. All right. So this
Okay,
comment was already posted. All you have to do is just click and then and I'll be like posting it here like the
okay.
days. All right. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, miss.
Allah
Allah Hafiz,
Hafiz.
miss.
Allah Hafiz, beta. Allah Hafiz.